Well, hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, part 3 and the finale of our duplicator jig for your lathe. We still have quite a bit to cover here on the jig, including the demonstration and instructions of how to use it. So I don't want to get too involved with an introduction, so let's just get right into the work. That will be 1/8 inch thick by 1 inch wide. And now that we have that groove cut in the bottom for our aluminum bar, we can take this over to the bandsaw and cut out our profile. Well, if you followed along, you should have something that looks like this. Now for me, because I want to use chisels with this instead of just a metal cutting end, I'll explain that a bit later, I'm going to have to notch mine so that I can get the chisel in far enough. So that's something that I didn't foresee, but that's okay. I've made the adjustment. We're going to get the chisel fitting in there nicely. While we're at it, we're going to drill the hole here for a threaded insert. So whatever insert you're using, drill it and install your insert there. The next thing is to take a trim router and just do a 1/4 inch round over on the back of the handle and the inside areas here, just to make it a little more comfortable to use. I've given the handle a good sanding, make sure it's good and comfortable, and it's now time to attach it to our base that we made earlier. You just want to make sure that when you're mounting this, you leave 1/4 inch from the back of this handle to the back of the base, and on this flat side here, we want 1/2 inch between the edge and the edge of our handle. So we can glue this down, and from those holes that you drilled earlier, we can screw it together from underneath. And with the tool rest attached to the base, glued and screwed in place, we have cut another piece of aluminum that is 1/8 of an inch thick. This one is 2.5 inches wide, and once again on the front edge, I've sharpened that to a point in the middle. And that kerf that we cut right here, our piece just slides into place just like that. And we're going to use a jig knob, 1/4 thread, to match our threaded insert that we put in here earlier, and this will allow us to adjust this front piece of aluminum back and forth and tighten it down in place. Well, there is one more piece that we would like to make, and that would be our aluminum cap that's going to hold this tool in place. It's quite snug, it's sitting all on its own, but when you get that into turning, you really don't want to just leave it to that groove. So we're going to cut a 2-inch long piece of that 1/8 thick aluminum, and it's going to be 1 inch wide. And the very last thing to do with the tool holder of our jig is to add the ABS knob that I turned earlier. Well, if you're following along, you should have something that looks like this at this point in time. Congratulations, you're finished making your duplicator. But how do you use it? Well, that's what we're going to get into next. And it starts off with a piece of MDF. It's now time to demonstrate the jig and show you how it works. And what I have is on our maple riser at the back, I've installed a 4-inch wide piece of MDF. The length doesn't really matter. All you need to make sure is that the length is longer than your piece that you're turning. In this case, it turns out to be 15 inches long. I've drilled holes in the back that coincide with the same mounting holes that we screwed the riser down with earlier, and I've screwed this piece of 1/4 inch thick MDF down to our riser. You may also want to notice here that where I would have had a gap here at the headstock, I've added one of our spacers to fill it out to get a full table at the back. I don't have that problem with the tailstock here But if I had a longer piece, of course, I could add more spacers to fill it in as we go. I have a makeshift turning. It's made from construction grade 2x4, so you will know that the results will be less than stellar for the turning, but this is a demonstration of the jig, not of spectacular products when it comes to lathe work. So all we're going to do is we're going to take our marker assembly. We're going to push our pencil all the way down until it contacts that MDF. You may have just heard it just snap down onto that MDF. And we're going to put our stylus, our aluminum stylus, against our turning. And all we're going to do is we're going to run this along just like this. And we're going to have it mark out this turning. And it is duplicating it in every way, shape, and form. Just like this and around here. And once we get it marked out, you can see we've got some scribbling out here. I'm not concerned. You'll follow the inside line. So once you get that all marked out, we're going to take it over to the scroll saw and cut that profile out. And once you get your template cut, you're just going to fasten it back down to your riser. We have our template cut and we've screwed it back in place onto the riser, and I just have a piece of poplar here that I'm going to chuck up between centers. And once we're happy with that, I have the chisel set in the tool holder so that the stylus is just proud of or just beyond our chisel tip. So what we're going to do is just light passes, and we're going to take this down to round. Well, you've got your piece rounded off for the most part. There's a couple of flat spots. My blank is actually a little too big as far as its diameter, but I'm not concerned. Again, it's just a demonstration. It just means it's going to take me longer to get to the final product. So with your stylus being beyond your cutter, you now just want to go in taking light passes until your stylus is running along your template. Well, essentially what we have right now is a big brother to our original turning. So what I need to do is you have to now line up the point of your stylus even with the tip of your chisel. And this will be the finishing cuts that we will be doing now. So light passes, take it nice and easy, and then once we get that done, we can sand it. And although I went a little bit gung-ho with the sanding here and took away some of those sharper edges, we've pretty much gotten an exact duplicate of our original 2x4 turned piece. And there you have it. A duplicator for your lathe. Guys, this is a really great jig. I was a little skeptical when I first had the plans there and was looking through them, but then I thought, you know what? I've never really been steered wrong with this type of plan before. And if you're wondering where those plans came from, they came from Shop Notes Volume 132. So if you have access to that magazine, or you have a friend that has access to it, you've got yourself the plans, and now you have yourself a video tutorial on how to make and use it. Guys, don't think that if you don't have these easy turn tools that you cannot make this jig. That's the furthest thing from the truth. You can use cutters that you use in a metal turning lathe where they're just a shorter square bar and their cutter is on the end. They're perfect because the metal is hard, they keep their edge, and the metal is short without having to deal with the long handle of the actual chisel that we would be using. So there are options here, guys. Don't count this jig out just because you don't have those chisels. Guys, I really want to thank you for joining me this week. I have had a blast. Through the entire series, this has been a lot of fun. I love making jigs, the technical aspect of it, the measuring, the checking, the whole 9 yards. I love building jigs. They're a lot of fun. Just remember, when you make a mistake on your jigs, every mistake is transferred to your project. So if you make a mistake and you're not happy with it, make that part again. You will be much happier with the final product and with the work that it produces as a jig. Guys, I want to thank you for tuning in again this week. I hope you're going to try this project for yourself, and I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video.